Someone was gonna die that day. Period. It was a cat and mouse game for so many years, and I didn't know it. I didn't know I was a mouse. He was a monster. And monsters are great at pretending to be something they aren't. Look at Ted Bundy. Charismatic, good-looking, charming. And he was a monster. Well, I was married to a monster, too. He was cruel. He was heinous. He was atrocious. He was evil incarnate. I'm filled with absolute hatred. I can't express the hatred I feel. I'm glad that he's suffering where he is right now. Hope he's rotting in hell. I really do. I don't refer to him by his first name. I will always use his last name, Palacio. I don't want his name passing my lips. He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve to be acknowledged. When I met him, I was just turning 15. And he was 21 or 22. He was significantly older than I was. But when I was 15, I looked 23, 25. I got into nightclubs without being carded. Just didn't look my age at all.
You were a cop?
Yep. Used to work Miami Beach, but got laid off.
We were talking, and I asked him what he did for a living. And he told me he did corporate security for Citibank, but that he had used to be a cop, and pulled his jacket back and showed me the gun that he still carried.
Do you always carry that around?
Of course.
And he said old habits die hard. He says I'm always armed.
Can't be too careful, right?
I guess I know who to call if I need protecting.
Here's this big husky guy who carries around a gun, and it made me feel safe. I wish I had known that he was going to be the one I needed to run from. He and I became friends, and he would pick me up and take me to work. And we'd hang out and we'd do things. He seemed so sweet, and we were such good friends. And eventually he made it known that he wanted more than that. And I told him that I couldn't. I made it very clear to him that I only ever wanted to be friends. And he said that's okay.
That is the most shocking thing I've ever heard.
I got to know him and thought that I knew who he was. But it turns out that was all a lie. First time I ever saw him angry was on my birthday. I was 18 and my friend Carl came to tell me happy birthday.
Hey, Carl!
Hey, how's it going, girl?
Good. Oh, thanks for stopping by.
Of course.
And I was standing outside with him and I saw Palacio.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Of
Thank
course, of
you.
course.
He saw Carl and he got red-faced and clearly was livid. He had a look of rage. His hands were clenched. He glared at me like he was ready to kill somebody. I had never seen him angry before. Never. He said, "You whore." And he turned around and left. It was very scary to see him looking like that.
Sorry about that.
I didn't understand why. He was so angry. Carl told me, "You don't want to be around this guy." He says this guy is not what you think he is.
You're just saying that because you don't like him.
And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know why you're saying that, but he's never been anything but nice to me." And he said, "Just remember I warned you. He's crazy. He's not all there."
I'm saying you should really be careful, okay?
I came to find out sometime later that the reason he was so angry was because he had bought me a ring and was going to ask me to marry him. I didn't know why. I've said so many times that I'm not interested in having that kind of relationship. And that definitely should have been a warning sign. I think that I was just too young and naive to really see. And should have listened to the warnings that people gave me. I started getting sick, having really bad headaches. Pain behind my eyes started breaking out in these lesions all over my body. And nobody knew what was wrong with me. I was terrified I was gonna die. And the one person that was there was Palacio. So one night we went to dinner, and he said, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you?"
So, what's going on? What did the doctor say?
And I said, "Nobody knows what's wrong with me." I said, "I've seen every doctor I can afford to see. I'm done. They don't know what it is."
He wants to run more tests, but I can't afford it.
He said, "Let me take care of you." And I didn't understand what he meant by "let me take care of you." What does that mean?
I have an idea.
What's that?
And he says, "Well, we'll get married. I'll put you on my insurance, and you'll be able to go to doctors and specialists and figure out what's wrong with you."
I can't do that.
Why not?
It seems so cold to marry somebody for insurance. But here I am, sick and for all intents and purposes dying, as far as I knew.
How else are you supposed to get better?
The household I grew up in was very violent. I was 14 the first time I ran away. So I didn't have parents, I didn't have security. I didn't have someone who cared about me. This was the first time that I felt protected.
Please, I need to do this for you.
I told him if we got married, it would have to be name only.
As long as we agree, it's just as friends.
And he said, okay. He was okay with that. It would be a friendship and nothing would change between us.
Of course.
But I'd be able to see doctors. So finally I agreed.
Thank you.
I agreed to marry him. I felt tremendous gratitude that somebody cared enough to make such a life-altering decision to help me. But I was manipulated into being married. When I look back at it, I think to myself, those were signs. Those were big signs, and you ignored them. They were flashing red lights that you ignored. I agreed to marry him, and we started living together. He went from being this amazing friend to a monster almost overnight. The first thing he did when we moved in was he put 2 deadbolts that could only be opened with keys. And I was not given keys.
Don't forget to leave me a set.
He had the only keys.
I didn't make you a set.
But then I can't get out.
I know.
I asked him, why are you locking me in? And he said, because I need to be able to trust you before you can go out. That was like whiplash. What are you talking about? You need to give me a key.
Are you insane? You can't just lock me in here.
Who do you think you're talking to, huh?
And he threw me up against the wall and he grabbed me by the throat and he said, you don't question me. You don't question my decisions. He looked crazy. I was just horrified. Who is this person? And I kept saying, what is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And he says, there's nothing wrong with me. You need to learn what the rules are and how to live by the rules. And you don't ever question me. You never question me again. After he was done and was getting ready to leave, he would always pull the phone off the wall, unplug it, wrap the little cord around.
You can have this back, and I can trust you.
And off he went to work, and click, click went the locks. No phone. No way to get help. Nothing. I was a prisoner. I was an absolute prisoner. And I just kept thinking back to that day on my birthday. And I kept thinking, oh my God, I was warned. And I didn't listen. When we agreed that I would move in and get married and he would give me insurance, there was never any talk about him expecting sex from me. He told me he was my friend and he just wanted to take care of me. It's not true. It was not true. The very first time that we were in the apartment together, he raped me. After the first time he raped me, I was sobbing and hysterical and crying. And I kept telling him, we talked about this. Why are you doing this to me? Who the hell are you? And he said, I am the person I've always been. And I just couldn't believe it. Who the hell am I sitting next to right now? That's all I could think of. He made it clear that this was what was gonna happen. That I was gonna cook, I was gonna clean, I was gonna do his laundry, and I was gonna have sex with him. And that was my role. I became a possession, and he used me however he wanted to. I dreaded it every single time, but at some point, you just quit fighting. He told me, shut the hell up, get in bed and go to sleep. You gotta make me breakfast in the morning. Go to bed now and shut up. I kept thinking to myself, he's always watching, and if you get away from him, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? You're so sick you can barely lift your head up off the pillow some days. What are you gonna do? My health was deteriorating every day. I was sicker every single day. When I would ask him, can we please make an appointment for me to go to the doctor? He would just look at me, slap me, and say, we'll do it when I'm ready to do it. He loved having that power. He loved control. He thrived on it. He needed it. It wasn't until I was basically blind that he let me go to a doctor. I was useless to him if I was blind. How could I iron shirts if I'm blind? How could I keep the house clean if I'm blind? He said to me, if you make one wrong move, you say one wrong thing, I'm gonna kill your cat. And it'll be your fault. I went into the doctor's office, into the exam room. He knew his mere presence would make sure that I didn't say anything.
Alright, well, let's see if we can figure out what's going on with you today, alright?
I was diagnosed with systemic lupus and fibromyalgia, on top of many other issues.
Is there anything going on at home that might be causing any stress lately?
I didn't, for more than 5 minutes at a time, ever think about leaving. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back to not having insurance? How am I going to be treated for my medical conditions if I don't have insurance?
No.
There's no point of running, because there's nowhere to go. I was trapped by my illnesses. I was trapped by my own psyche. My own brain told me I was not capable of surviving without him.
Hopefully in the next few days we can get an answer back to you, right?
Okay.
He always carried a gun. And it made him feel like a big man. And so he would always bring the gun out when he was mad at me. And he would start cleaning it, take it apart and clean it, and just stare at me. He was threatening me with it, without having to say it. And then he'd put it back together and he'd say, put it right up to my face and say, look, doesn't it look nice? And he'd smirk. It terrified me. One time he came into the bedroom and raped me with the handle of a knife and told me it'll be the sharp end of the knife next time. And this is what people don't understand when they say, you can go to the police now. You can do this, you can do that. You don't leave someone like that. That's a psychopath. And I was in his grips. You can't leave somebody that crazy, because they'll find you. I didn't want to be a captain anymore. I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I was in limbo, and the medication is working, and slowly I'm getting a little bit better, a little at a time. Once I started feeling better, I started feeling that urge to call somebody, to beg for help, to find a safe house, to do something. I knew I had to get out. I couldn't stay there anymore. I had to get out somehow. And as I'm thinking all this and thinking about, well, you can go live in a homeless shelter until you find a job, I found out I was pregnant. My babies. Emily and Ryan, that was the picture that I took the day that Ryan came home from the hospital. They gave me purpose. They gave my life meaning. I had something to wake up for. I was very fierce about protecting my children, and I didn't care what happened to me. My children gave me courage. When my son was young, he had severely crossed eyes. The treatment for the crossed eyes is to patch each eye individually. Flavio told me that was wrong and that I was going to do it his way. And I said, no, I'm going to do it the way that the doctors told me to do it.
I'm just telling you what he said.
And he was fuming that I corrected him.
If you want to check, give him a call.
And he grabbed me by the hair and he pushed me against the wall.
Maybe you forgot how things work around here.
And he said, don't you ever tell me I'm not doing the right thing for my children. And he took a big, heavy-duty hole puncher and he hit me right up here. And out I went. I was unconscious for a period of time, I don't know how long. When I woke up, I was on the ground and I was bruised and bloodied. He was never gonna change or come to some epiphany and realize he's been a complete bastard. And say, I'm so sorry I made your life hell for so many years. Can you ever forgive me? That was never gonna happen. We were at his cousin's house, standing around right by this hot tub, and my daughter kind of toddled over, and she fell into the hot tub.
Emma!
And I was on the other side of the pool, and he's just standing there staring down. She's sinking. She's reaching up like this.
Chris, do something!
I ran over and jumped in and grabbed her out and started patting her back to get the water out of her lungs. And I said, what the hell is wrong with you? I said, how could you just stand there? You were gonna let her drown because you don't want your clothes to get wet?
Are you insane?
And that was the first time that I had ever really stood up to him and said something. He said, we're leaving. I said, good.
Let's go.
He beat the hell out of me that night. But my daughter was alive, so it was worth it. That night was the night I realized he was going to kill one or all of us, and we needed to get out. We had to go, and we needed to get somewhere safe. I started calling lawyers and would tell them the entire story. And all of them said the same thing. Don't worry, you'll get alimony, you'll get child support, you'll be able to support yourself. It was all about my kids at that point. What happened to me didn't matter anymore. Those are my babies. They saved me, and it was my turn to save them. I slept with my children. So I started pushing the dresser in front of the door every night so that he couldn't get in, and to keep me and the kids safe so that we could sleep. But one night I was tired. The kids were asleep. I didn't want to make any noise. And I didn't put the dresser in front of the door that night. And that's the night he picked. I woke up and Emma was gone. I was terrified. She would never get up and leave me on her own.
Emma?
I panicked. I jumped up. I started screaming her name.
Emma!
And I ran through the house looking for her. And I run into the living room. And there she is on his lap, with a gun to her head. He said, I know that you've been talking to a lawyer. I know you're thinking about leaving. And you're never gonna leave. You're never gonna get away. Because I'll make you watch the children die before I kill you.
First them, then you.
My daughter has a gun to her head and he's gonna kill her. And I'm begging and pleading and praying, dear God, help me. And begging him that I will do anything he wants me to do if he would just put her down and let her go. He picked her up and he threw her across the room. And he walked up to me and he kicked me twice in the gut. And he said, you're never going anywhere. You just remember that. And he just smiled, that maniacal smile. And he left. I'm thinking, how the hell did he know? I've been talking to a lawyer. How does he know I'm leaving? What else does he know? Somehow, he's getting information. And I hadn't told anyone my plans. No one. No one knew. So it had to be something in the house. I was certain he planted something in the house. I knew there had to be cameras or listening devices in the house. Somewhere. So I started searching those rooms. And then I started looking through light switches and electrical outlets. It was a methodical search, light by light, switch by switch, and just looked around with the little flashlight until I saw something that didn't look like anything I had seen in the others. I pulled it out, and sure enough, in the electrical outlet, there was this thing, and it had a wire. I went all around the house, and I found about 4 more of them. And I found these teeny, tiny, itty-bitty little cameras in the light fixtures. He was watching everything I did. He listened to every word that was said in that house. I just sat and I looked at them, and I started crying. Because I thought, my God, anytime he wanted to, he could listen. And he could see. I became so determined I wasn't going to let my kids live like this. But I knew better than to talk in the house. I knew better than to make any kind of plans in the house. I didn't even write things down in the house. I started playing my kids' computer game, and I met other parents on the line that were also playing. I wasn't allowed to have friends, so being able to socialize felt great. It was wonderful. That game was an outlet for me. One of the people I met was a single dad named Paul, and he lived in England, and we developed a friendship. Paul told me I had to get out. He told me to leave. And I made my decision to leave Palacio. And I dropped the kids off at school one morning and went and I signed a lease on a furnished apartment, grabbed all our clothes, grabbed my cat, put it all in my minivan, stopped at my lawyer's office, signed divorce papers, and I prayed. I prayed. I had panic buttons everywhere. On my neck, around the children's necks. Had panic button in each and every room of that townhouse. All I had to do was push it and the police would come. I knew he'd find me. I knew it would be a matter of less than 24 hours until he found out where I was living, but I prayed for that security to work. I was awake and listening for every little sound. Checked the alarm system 1,000,000 times that it was on. Checked the motion detectors. Checked everything. And I just waited and waited and waited. And he never came. He never came. Paul called me and said, could I come and see you? I was not looking for a relationship, but one day he kissed me and I kissed him back. He knew that we were in danger, and so he said, I want to stay and help try to protect you. I tried to warn him, and he said, oh, I know what I'm getting involved in. I know he's psychopathic. I know that he's insane. I'm going to stay and protect you. The day the divorce was final, Paul and I went to the clerk's office to get a certified copy of the divorce. And I was happy and smiling, and I was giving Paul kisses on the cheek and just saying, I'm so happy.
Can't believe it's finally over.
I know, it's so exciting.
It is.
And I turned around, and there was Palacio. And I said, oh my God, Jesus, Paul, he's there.
What's wrong?
It's him. He's here.
So we were standing in line, and for whatever reason, he decided to stand directly behind us.
Everything's gonna be fine. He's not gonna do anything with a room full of people standing around.
And he had this face. I can't really explain it. The eyes are dead, or the eyes are evil, or the eyes are plotting. He could have shot me right then and there. He could have stabbed me. He could have done anything. I just whispered, oh my God, and I grabbed Paul's hands and I just squeezed it as hard as I could, and he squeezed back. That was his way of saying, it's okay, I'm here.
Can we please leave?
Yeah, come on, let's go.
So I got my papers, I left, made sure he wasn't in the same elevator going down, and we went to another courthouse, a different courthouse, to get our marriage license. Made plans to get married 3 days later. And we went to go pick rings. I told Paul so many times that he needed to go home and go be with his son, and that I loved him, and that I would go and visit him as often as I could. He refused to go. He wanted to stay with me. And I kept telling him, one day he's gonna kill us. And he said he's not man enough. He's not man enough to do that. And he refused to go. I wish you had listened to me. I wish you had gone back to England. And I'm sorry. When the divorce was final, the judge gave him 50% custody, so he got them every other week. I had to take my children sobbing to this monster's house every time I dropped them off. I didn't know if I was ever going to see them again. It was terrifying. It's my birthday. Paul and I and the kids went out to eat. I had to take the children back to Palacio.
Chris?
We got there, knocked on the door, and he didn't answer. And I rang the bell and waited, and no one answered.
I guess he's not here.
Got back in the car, and we were getting ready to leave. And Paul honked the horn one last time, and out comes Palacio screaming in a rage.
What the hell are you doing here? It's fine. I'll handle it. Wait here.
Please don't. Paul.
And Paul said, this is enough. We're not leaving the kids here with him if he's gonna act like this. If he's that unstable, then he can't have the kids.
Get off my property, Chris. Come on, man.
So Paul started to tell him exactly that.
I am sick and tired of you causing problems.
And Palacio goes like this, behind him, and I knew. I'd seen that motion before a million times, when he would go to take the gun out and point it at me.
Oh, watch out!
And I said, oh my God, Paul, he's got a gun. By the time the words were out, he was already on the ground. And it was too late. He had already fired the shot straight to the heart. He just started grinning ear to ear, just smiling. Like he had won the lottery, he was smiling. And he went up to Paul, and he shot him twice more in the back. And he just kept shooting him with a smile on his face. And he emptied the clip into him. And I'm screaming, and people are coming out of their houses. And he had gone back into the house to reload. At that point, you could hear the police sirens already. From the people calling the police, they were right around the corner. They were there in less than 2 minutes. So he never had a chance to shoot near the kids because the police came. They cuffed him. They put him in the squad car. He told the police, he said, "Look what that bitch made me do. Do you see what that bitch made me do?" And that's what he kept saying to the cops. "Look what that bitch made me do." He tried to claim self-defense when they were interrogating him. He said, "Well, I think he had a gun and he's bigger than me."
He was running at me and he looked like he was coming with a gun. I shot him.
I wanted to testify. I wanted the world to know what he was. I wanted them to know what he did and why he did it. I screamed. I said, "Oh my God, Paulie's got a gun." When I walked in, he was sitting there with his lawyers. But other than that, one brief moment when I was being sworn in, I could not see him.
Winter described the slow, merciless method in which Palacio shot at Paul. She said he did so while smiling.
He walked up to my husband after he was laying face down, and he shot him more in the back. He fought every little thing to the point that my lawyer told me, "Jen, you need to get out of Florida now. You need to go. What if they come back yet not guilty? You need to go." I have nothing to say to him. He knows what he did. He knows what he is. And he's in a very harsh prison. One of the worst in Florida, from what I understand. I learned to make a life for myself, and I wouldn't have had my children if it hadn't been for all of this. And having my children made it all worth it. Every ounce of pain, every punch, every slap, I'd go through it again to have my children. I know that's probably the most ridiculous thing most people have ever heard of, but my kids are my world. They are absolutely everything to me. Paul was an innocent man. He loved me. That's all there is. He loved me. He gave his life for us. I live with tremendous guilt about that. And for a long time, I was angry at him. After he died, I was angry. And I used to scream, "I told you just to leave." I'd be dead, but he would have been alive. And it's not right, because he didn't marry that monster. I did. We're so lucky that we're alive. I'm sorry for Paul. I'm sorry for his family. I'm so sorry for his son. My heart breaks for his son. It really does. But I feel tremendously lucky. I got away. Paul gave his life, but I got away.
that I have here on my forehead. It doesn't bother me to have to see it. It reminds me that I survived. I had thought once about getting it removed, but I decided against it because I want to continue to remind myself to never go back. It also reminds me of my purpose now. That was a bad period in my life, but I overcame and I survived that time. When I heard what the truth really was, it was sickening. He was a serial predator. This very easily could have been me, and I think that's what's so hard for me, is because I've seen the end of a gun in his hand. When I found out he was dead, it was, for me, a sign of freedom after all those years. And I'm glad that he can't hurt anyone else any longer. Stafford and I met by mistake. A friend of mine was friends with his best friend. They wanted to go out, and so they brought us along as a wingman, I guess.
So, what's your story?
So we ended up, just chatting, having general conversation, and realized we had a lot in common. I liked his sense of humor. He made me laugh. We both loved music. At the time, I was 20. He was 27. He told me he was going through a divorce and they had 2 children. He was a mechanic, so he, was self-employed. He worked on cars. He had his own garage.
Maybe we can do this again, without the 2 of them.
He asked me if I wanted to go out, and I was like, sure. And then from there, we just kind of started seeing each other, more on a regular basis. And at some point, I fell in love.
Perfect.
I was young, I was naive, I was trusting, and never in a million years thinking that someone would actually want to hurt me. Someone that says that they love me would want to hurt me. When we met, he was living with one of his family members. I went to the house one night. He was downstairs in the basement washing clothes. And I was upstairs in his room, and I was laying across the bed watching TV. And his mother comes to the door, and she says, "You need to leave him alone so he can be with his family." And I was totally taken aback.
Okay.
Why would you say that to me? It just came out of left field. The only thing I could think was because the divorce still hadn't gone through. So I was okay, well, maybe she just wants him to be back with the wife. So by the time I get to the front door, he's coming back up the stairs.
Sonia, wait. What's up? Why are you leaving?
It's clear I'm not welcome here.
What do you mean?
Your mom doesn't want me here. I'm gonna leave.
Just give me a minute. Don't go.
He tells me to wait.
Mom! What the hell is wrong with you?
And I could hear him yelling at her.
You got no damn right talking to my friend like that.
He proceeded to continue to kind of curse her and tell her off.
Get the hell out of here and mind your own damn business.
He comes back, and I was like, okay, that's a little weird.
Do you always talk to your mom like that?
Yeah. So what?
I wasn't raised like that you curse at your parent. I appreciated him standing up for me, but at the same time, I didn't like the fact that he cursed and yelled at his mother the way that he did. That was disrespectful to me. About a year into the relationship, we moved in together, and that's when things started to get interesting.
Listen, now that we're serious, there's something I should probably tell you about.
About what?
One time, Stafford and I were having this conversation. We were just sitting talking, and he told me about this incident that happened years ago.
When I was younger, I had an incident with the police.
There was a body that was found, a man's body in the back of a car, and the person had been burnt. And the police came to him because he knew the person.
What? What happened?
They questioned him, had arrested him, but found that there was no evidence against him, and the case just kind of went away.
I just wanted you to know the truth in case, you hear from someone else.
I need to let you know, just FYI, if it ever comes up, I'm telling you I didn't do it. For me, it was like, wow, dang, that's messed up. Like this was a traumatic experience in his life, that it was something that he was blamed for that he didn't do.
I'm sorry. I should have brought it up.
Looking back now, when I think about it, it makes me almost sick to my stomach. Years later, I learned that the story was a total lie. It was a young lady that was found burned in the back of a car. And not only was a girl, it was a 17-year-old girl, and it was his girlfriend at the time. They thought that he did it because he was the last person she was with. She had told him she was pregnant. And no one ever saw her after that. So it was totally not what he told me that it was. I never would have thought in a million years that he would be capable of any of this if I would have ever thought that. I would have never stayed. We had a New Year's Eve party at our house and had some friends and family over. At the end of the evening, we had to take one of my cousins home. And so on the way, Stafford was going a different route than what I normally went to the house.
What are you doing?
And so I asked him, how come you're going this way? How come you don't go that way? And he just kind of snapped at me.
Don't tell me how to drive.
And told me, well, I'm going the way I want to go. Don't question me.
You got a problem with that?
I didn't understand. Why are you getting so upset over a simple question? I just said, okay. And I sat there quiet for the rest of the trip. And so we get back home, and he starts back up with me.
I don't need you to tell me what to do. You got that?
About don't question me. And it turns into this big blown out argument.
I said I'm sorry.
Then why do you keep doing it?
Leave me alone.
Before I knew it, he pushed me down on the bed. He's on top of me. His face went, I don't know if blank is the word. I didn't recognize him. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I was scared. Before I knew it, he headbutted me. Split my forehead open. I was crying, and I'm just, kind of hysterical because I couldn't believe what had just happened. And I go in the bathroom, I clean myself up, and come back into the room. And he looks at me, and he was immediately started apologizing.
I can't believe that happened. It was a complete accident.
Oh my gosh, baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I won't do that again. Forgive me. Forgive me. I was so shocked. Like, how could you do this to me? And he just kept apologizing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I won't ever do that to you again, I swear.
I forgave him. We're just going to pretend like this didn't happen, and we're just going to move on. And this can't ever happen again.
It's okay. It's okay.
The scar that I have here on my forehead is from when Stafford headbutted me. I have a everlasting reminder of the first act of violence. I can see the rage, the anger. That's something I never want to see again. To all outside appearances, we were a great couple. We had a good relationship. We joked and we had a great time. Inward, we were a mess. Everything was a farce. It was dysfunctional on the inside. Unhappy on the inside. But you wouldn't have known it from the outside. His erratic work hours really bothered me. The hours got longer and longer. It might be 11 o'clock when he came home. It might be 1 o'clock in the morning when he came home. There would be nights when he wouldn't come home.
I'm awake.
It bothered me. I would question, why do you have to work so late? I don't never know when you're coming home. People close their garages and go home to their families. Why are you any different?
What are you doing all day and night?
What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm working.
He would say, I got this card to do, I got that card to do, I'm still working on this, and then I gotta go over there, and I gotta check out this person's card. He was a self-employed person. He was a business owner. So there was always a reason.
I'm trying to run a business.
I'm sorry. I just want you home more.
Stafford was my first real adult relationship that I had. I believe what he said. As time went on, it became normal. That, oh, he's not here. He's still at the garage. That became my saying. He's still at the garage. This is the journal that I used to keep. Thursday, February the 14th, 2002. A lovely Valentine's Day. Yeah, right. Stafford didn't come home last night. Of course, I was calling and calling, but no answer. It's a terrible feeling to not know where someone is and to be very worried about them when they don't show up. This particular Valentine's, I was waiting for him. He was supposed to have been coming home, but he never made it. Next morning comes, now I'm just mad. You never came home, never heard from you. Where were you?
You want to tell me where you've been at all night long?
He told me that his aunt was in the hospital and said that he was at the hospital. I was uncertain if he was really telling the truth.
Why are you being like this?
But that was one of those times when he flipped that conversation around on me and told me basically that I was selfish for wanting him to be there when he was there taking care of his family and checking on his family.
I think if you weren't so wrapped up in yourself, you wouldn't get so upset over nothing.
I became the bad person. I became what was wrong with us. And I had to find a way to change my behavior so that these things don't happen.
I'm sorry.
If I would take his feelings into more consideration, then we would be fine. He convinced me that I was wrong and that I couldn't see past what I wanted. Tuesday, February the 19th. We finally made up. I had finally come to the realization that I let my emotions get the best of me. I couldn't or wouldn't see past my feelings to see that he was there for his aunt. Looking at it now, I can see that he had convinced me that it was my fault, that I'm too sensitive, and that I let my emotions fog me. And so my thoughts became what he told me that they were, not what I thought that they were. It was the beginning of him starting to mentally control me. He started blaming me for his behavior. I remember one night, it was about 1 or 2 in the morning, and we were sleeping. He gets up, doesn't say a word to me, slams the door. When he slammed the door, everything shook. It woke me up, and I was like, what in the world? So I immediately called him. I said, what is wrong with you?
Stafford, what happened? Where'd you go?
He was like, you know what you did. I didn't do anything. I was like, what are you talking about? What did I do? He said that I rolled over, I got on top of him, and said another man's name.
Stafford, I swear, there's no one else.
Whose name were you saying in your sleep? You gotta be seeing somebody. Who is it? Who is it?
Please, just come home. I swear, whatever I said, I didn't mean it.
It was just baffling to me. It just made no sense. I'm not seeing anybody else. But all I had to go off of is what he told me. I start questioning myself. Maybe there's something there and I'm just not aware of it and it's coming out in my sleep. I was like, I think something's wrong with me. I need help. Something is wrong with me.
Stafford?
Now I understand that what he was doing at that time is gaslighting. He was manipulating my mind to have me doubting my own sanity. And it kept happening over and over and over again. There's questions that I have still to this day that I will never know the answer to. There are parts of my life that I don't know what was real and what wasn't. And, I just have to live with the fact that I'll never know. October 28th of 02. I'm doing things in my sleep I can't explain. Unfortunately, I can't remember any of it. I have got to fix this, and soon. November the 22nd, this is happening again. Me talking in my sleep and doing things and having no recollection of it. Stafford left at 4 a.m. this morning. Stormed out. God, what is wrong with me? I just don't understand, and it frightens me. Even though it was me that wrote it, because I'm not this person any longer, I look at it now and I feel sorry for her. All I can do is shake my head, because I can just see the pattern, the manipulative pattern, to make sure that I stayed where he needed me to be, in his control. We first started dating, the story was that he was separated and that he and the wife were going through a divorce. Stafford Stafford called me one day. He hurt his hand while he was working, and he had to go to the emergency room. I said, well, where are you? I'm going to come up there. No, don't come up here. I went anyway. So I get there, and he was with his wife. They are sitting in the waiting area, waiting to be discharged. And so I sat down directly across from them. He didn't say anything to me. He just looked at me like he had never seen me before. And I'm looking at him like, I said, hello. He didn't say anything. And she's just looking at me. The look on his face was like he was afraid to say anything. It was strange. I wanted to see what he was going to say. And so I sat there and I'm just looking at the both of them. Very nice, very calm, never said another word. One of my thoughts was, I think they're still together. That just kept playing over and over my head. You said you can't stand her. Okay, what is really going on?
Stafford Shaw, we're ready for you.
And they called his name to give him his discharge papers. He goes up and they proceed to leave out. So I walked out after. And I called his name and I said, Stafford. And he turned around. I said, are you really gonna act like you don't know who I am? And he was like, Sonia, go home. I said, what is going on? He was like, Sonia, go home. And I was like, I don't believe this. So I get in my car, I go home. I get to the house, I take everything that he owned, and I put it in a pile next to the door. So I'm like, I'm not gonna deal with this. He gets to the house.
What's all this about?
What do you think it is?
My question was, well, are y'all still together? We're not still together. You know I can't stand her.
I thought you said you were getting a divorce.
And he said, because the divorce hadn't gone through, he was still under the wife's insurance. So he had to call her and the insurance cards.
So why is it such a big secret then?
I remember telling him, why were you hiding her being there? All you had to do was tell me that she was there.
I'm sorry. I should have handled it better.
I was in total denial about everything. One morning, it was early. It was probably about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the doorbell rings. And he went to the door, and I could hear him saying, what are you doing here? When I looked out the front window, it was his wife. And she said, oh, this is your nighttime job? And I stood there and I was like, nighttime job? What is she talking about? What nighttime job? He made her leave. When he came back in the room, the first thing I asked him was, what is she doing here?
So she's coming to our house now?
He didn't seem the least bit surprised that she was there. And he brushed it off. He was like, I'll talk to her. I'll make sure she doesn't come back. It was like, okay. You know, wheels are now starting to turn. There's a reason that this woman came looking for you.
I thought you two hated each other.
We do.
And if you two don't get along, why does she care about where you are?
I don't know what she's after. She's crazy.
We were arguing, and he spit out that he was divorced.
Wait, what?
And I said, you're divorced? When did this happen? How come you didn't tell me? He was like, what? I'm finally divorced now. We can finally be together. He told me what I wanted to hear. She never did show up, at the house again. But what she said always kind of stayed in the back of my mind. And what did that mean? We had an engagement party, and it was just full speed ahead with the wedding plans because now we can be together. And then one day we had an argument. And he tells me I'm not divorced.
You told me the divorce was final.
He sat there on the edge of the bed, And he started just crying and babbling about us and his family, and he started saying that he wanted to die. I just want to die.
I'm sorry. I just can't do this anymore.
He had a gun in the house. It came out. And he had loaded one bullet in the gun. He took the gun, he put it up to his head, put it to his temple. And I was like, Stafford, stop. Stop it.
You don't want to do this.
Begging him and telling him, put the gun down, put the gun down. And he pulled the trigger. After it clicked, I just kept saying, stop, please stop. Just put it down. You want to live. You don't want to die.
It's gonna be okay.
He was like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Cocked the gun back again. And he put it up one more time. Pulled the trigger and it clicked. I was petrified. And I told him again, stop it, Stafford, stop it. Put the gun up again. And this time, when he pulled the trigger, he pointed it at me. I couldn't believe that we were at this point. This is not happening right now. This cannot be happening. And I ran down the hall, and the gun went off. I was like, oh my God. I came back down the hall, and I peeked in the room, and he was still sitting there on the side of the bed. And I looked up in the ceiling right above my head, and the bullet was lodged in the ceiling. And I said, you tried to shoot me.
You almost killed me. What the hell is wrong with you?
And he just sat there and cried. And I ran over to him, and I hugged him, and I comforted him.
It's okay.
The crying spells were an act. It was part of his manipulation, part of keeping me there. I went from the victim to now rescuing him. And we sat there and we talked, trying to figure out what was going on with him. Why are you doing all of this? He was very good at the manipulation factor. And so he knew the things that he needed to do to kind of reel me back in. I had never been to his garage. He would describe to me how it looked, and I just had a mental picture in my mind of the way it looked. But I had never been there. One particular time, the wife had taken the boys, his children, somewhere. He heard that she had moved out of town, and he didn't know where they were. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can find them. So I started getting on the internet and doing searches and stuff. His thing was that he didn't know where the kids were. So my whole reasoning behind it was to find out where the kids were, because that would make him happy. And I pulled her name up. And when I pulled her name up, I found an address. So I drove there. When I drove by the house, I saw a garage. And I'm looking at the garage and remembering how he told me that the garage looked. The mental picture that I had, it's right here in front of me. This is the garage. That was when the big light bulb came on. They were together. He was probably going back and forth between both places and still being there with her. I felt deceived. I had been deceived. So I parked at the end of the street, and I sat and just waited to see if I saw anybody go in or out of the house for a little while. I didn't see anything, but I knew enough to know that he was living a double life. 2 families, 2 lives, 2 households. I was the other woman. So that evening, I had taken everything that he owned, and put it by the front door. When he came home, he says, what is all this?
What's going on?
I know where you've been going.
And I told him, I said, I found the garage. And eyes got a little big. He was surprised, but that didn't last long because then it got defensive. He flipped it around to me and said that he didn't tell me because the house was in her name, but she didn't live there.
She owns the place. So what?
And he said, I just rent the garage in the back. I want to believe him, but my gut knew something's not right and you're really not being truthful with me. And so I was on this quest now for the truth. One of the bills I paid was the cell phone bill. And when I went to pay the phone bill, I'm saying a couple of numbers repetitively. One of the numbers that was repetitive was the wife's phone number. And then there was another phone number that was pretty frequent. The calls are like 1 in the morning, really odd. So when he was sleeping, I picked up his phone and looked through his phone. And I found out the name for the number. And the name said Morgan. I decided that I was going to call her and find out who she was. I was a little jittery because I wasn't sure what to say.
Hi. I'm sorry for calling you so late.
Never said who I was. I just said that I was a friend. Asked her if she knew Stafford. She said yes. She said he was her mechanic. I said, okay, thanks. Hung up the phone. I knew that there was more to it. She must have told him that I called the next day. He was very upset with me. My stomach was in knots because something in me felt that something was going to happen. I didn't know what that something was going to be, but it wasn't going to be good. So while in the kitchen, I went in the drawer and I took out this knife and I just laid it on the counter to protect myself.
Sonia, why are you going around calling my customers?
He gets on my face and just starts yelling at me about me calling his customers and it's not my business.
You got no damn right calling people asking about me.
And he sees the knife sitting on the counter. He was like, oh, so what you want? You want to try to stab me? And he started hitting me in my body. He hit me in my face. I am trying to protect, my head, my face. And he just kept hitting me. And I end up falling onto the ground. So he's now over top of me on the floor. And I'm telling him to get off of me, trying to get him off of me. His eyes were filled with hate. And he said, I should stab you. Stafford! No! He takes the knife and he jabs it right next to my ear. And I managed to push him off of me. Something snapped in me mentally. And I got mad. I wasn't scared anymore. I was mad.
You want to kill me?
He looked me square in my eyes. He said, if I had a gun, I would shoot you dead right now. And I told him, I said, I do not care. I gained this strength that I hadn't had. And then he started his cry. He got down on his knees on the floor and begging.
Please don't go.
And I just looked at him now. I didn't go over to him like I normally did. I didn't feel sorry for him anymore. I didn't care. I was done. May 29th, 2015. It was a Friday. And I had just left work. And I was going on my way to the gym. This particular highway I was on was backed up. I'm like, why is this highway backed up? As I got closer, I looked over and there was a car that was in the middle of the highway. And pretty much the whole front was gone. And I remember I just started praying. I started crying. And I got this just weird feeling that just came over my whole body. And I was like, okay, what is that? And why am I crying? A few minutes later, I get a phone call. And it's from a friend of mine, and he asked me if I had seen the news. And he says, Staff, got in an accident, and they think he's dead.
What?
The news is saying he had also killed 2 other people. There was a girlfriend that had been found dead. And I said, was the girl Morgan? And he said yes.
The man police say killed his estranged girlfriend, Morgan Rogers, and their 1-year-old daughter, Leah, in their Chesterfield home Friday, then hours later killed a brother and sister in a crash on Interstate 295 while eluding police. A crash that also killed Shaw.
I found out that Morgan was shot, both her and the baby. He shot them while they were sleeping.
Chesterfield police say phone records prove Shaw admitted he killed Rogers and their 1-year-old daughter, Leah.
This was the crash site that I saw. I remember seeing it that day. I remember driving past the accident site not knowing what it was. I had witnessed where he died and took 2 other people's lives with him. When I found out he was dead, I could breathe. I could finally breathe. He was back living a double life again. He went back to his family, but was still seeing another woman on the side. The next day, me and some friends went to a vigil.
Through prayers and tears, a community comes together, mourning the lives of Morgan Rogers and her 1-year-old baby Leah, murdered in their Chesterfield home.
I had some survivor's guilt that I was still here. And they weren't. It almost felt wrong for me to feel thankful for still living and for getting out. This very easily could have been me, and I think that's what's so hard for me, is because I've seen the end of a gun in his hand. The guilt was about me not speaking up back then and me not saying anything to Morgan when I talked to her that day. And if I would have said something, if I would have told her to what kind of a person he really was. He was a monster. And I know no other word to call him than a monster.
While she and others remember the tragedy in this home, Holt has this message for domestic violence victims.
Tell someone, don't be silent, because this is what happens when you're silent. If I didn't leave, would that have been my fate? If we did have children together, would that have been our fate? It became my personal mission to educate other women and girls about domestic violence, because the only way that it gets stopped is if we educate. Too many people are losing their lives and have lost their lives, and it has to stop. I want people to hear the signs. It's not always easy to leave, but you don't have to suffer in silence. I have to keep speaking, and I have to keep pushing and helping, because there's too many people out there to help.
Talking about Cammy's very emotional.
but I want to share the story that changed our entire family's landscape. The people who she is supposed to love the most, and probably did love the most, she ended up hurting the most. But I still believe in humanity and the good that they were supposed to have been. And I'm sorry it couldn't have turned out that way for her. Just a minute, please. She'll serve her sentence and get free and be walking the streets of society. I will be watching and being very careful when and if that doesn't happen, because I feel like that there is potential for Cammy coming after me. If my sister were to come after me in revenge, I would not hesitate in pulling a trigger against her. This is me and my middle sister, Cammy. There was exactly 3 years between us. The bond was developed very early on because I adored her. She loved to get in the bed with me and us have a playtime. I would make her giggle. I would tickle her belly. It was a wonderful time in my life. And I hope even in hers, maybe it's not remembered, but it's still in there somewhere. We grew up in Marion, North Carolina. I'm the oldest of 3 daughters. As Cammy got older, she would come to my bed when she had a nightmare and I'd snuggle her up.
What's wrong? You have a bad dream?
I can remember lots of times reading to her.
Once upon a time.
And I can remember her looking up at me as I read to her. Certain things kind of stick in your head. That sticks. That little smile. Because it was just so sweet. I wish you could see it in my head. She had the cutest little smile. Probably around the age of 6, I started seeing a behavioral change in my sister. She enjoyed seeing me upset. Growing up, it was very important to me to have things precise and orderly. I don't want to say I had OCD, but I disliked order. I remember one time in particular where I got very upset with Cammy for holding her elbows out after she washed her face because water would roll down her arms and get all over the sink and floor. And I snapped at her.
Cammy! Why are you always making a mess?
If you made her upset, then she got revenge. She went into our bedroom, took all of our drawers, and dumped them in the middle of the room. I walk into the room and I see the bedspreads and top sheets and pillows thrown into the middle of the floor.
Kimmy, why would you do this?
I was so angry in seeing that. I would say, Cammy, clean up that room. Well, she wouldn't. And she would laugh. She was actually being very entertained at me being angry.
Well, don't just stand there. Help me.
I think that the laughing when seeing me so upset was even worse than the actual deed of the destruction. Her intentions were to deliberately antagonize me. Kimmy took pleasure in eliciting responses. She loved to see me cry. In early teens, I became overweight and I was very self-conscious. And if she caught me standing in front of a mirror, she would attack that Achilles heel that caused me great distress. I was one day looking in the mirror and she came in the room and started laughing and going, just look at you. Look at you. Look how fat you are. It was awful, and she just kept on and on with it. And I think that did probably reduce me to tears.
You're looking a little chunky.
How could she say that to me? I would never say that to her. It was joyous cruelty. She knew what she was doing. She knew she was hurting me. And she was being entertained by that.
God, you're disgusting.
She enjoyed doing that on a regular basis. She had a distorted viewpoint of me her whole life. And she enjoyed seeing me cry. Mostly it was a rivalry with me, and I don't think that there was hardly that much between Cammy and Sharon as there was between Cammy and myself. Once I shared a secret with my sister Cammy, and she ended up using it against me. I could not go on a date until I was 16, which I thought was a little bit strict. So one time I kissed a guy and I felt real badly about it. I shared it with Cammy.
I leaned in and I kissed him. You kissed him?
And she was very, very sweet and very, very loving at first.
Did you like it? Of course.
She responded with, "Oh, Cindy, don't worry about that. That's not that bad." She was comforting.
But seriously, you can't tell anyone. I promise. I won't tell anyone.
Okay. I realize now. She would think through, how can I hurt Cindy the worst? All of a sudden she thinks, oh, I have leverage. I can use this. And, of course, that's exactly what ended up. 2 days after the incident, she started blackmailing me with my mom. Mom would divide cookies or a candy bar, and I would not give her my share.
Give me them. I'm not giving you my cookies.
And she threatened to blackmail me by using the secret that I had told her.
No, can't be promised.
She would immediately start calling for Mom.
Fine. Have your way. Mom! Wait!
I would say, wait, come back. Here, you can have this.
Here.
Because I didn't want that to happen. Cammy blackmailed me for several months. A normal person would not do that to another person. But she doesn't care about getting along. She doesn't care about friendships. It became a miserable way to live. And finally one day I'd had enough. I went and I said, Mom, can I talk to you about something? And I told my mom myself.
I have something to tell you.
Once I told my mother the secret, I felt so free. The load was gone. But that one incident changed the landscape of our relationship for the rest of our life. Because I never could trust her fully again. This is a picture of my baby sister Sharon and Cammy and myself. I was 14 and Cammy was 11. I desperately wanted to have a close relationship with Cammy, but our relationship was very strained. Very seldom do I remember her being sweet and nice. I didn't recognize that the abnormal behavior would last for a lifetime. I didn't know that. As time went on, we noticed that Cammy became more and more obsessed with revenge. And as she grew older, around 8 years old, she started using weapons. One day we were on the school bus coming home, and I was teasing her about a particular boy that liked her. We got home, and then it started.
Come on, Kenny. I was only joking.
She just decided that she was going to go get a kitchen paring knife. I heard the drawer open, and I was standing in the living room.
What are you doing?
And totally unexpecting that she would throw a knife at me. She just took it by the knife part and threw it. And it lodged in my wrist.
What is wrong with you?
It was like very, very bloody. I was trying to stop the bleeding.
You could have killed me.
She walked by like, that's what you get. That serves you right. Did not say, oh, I'm sorry. Just walked on by and went on her merry way. There was no remorse, but I think satisfaction. I really think satisfaction. When I told Mom and Dad that, she got 25 licks with a belt. But sometimes after a spanking, Cammy would laugh just to show that it didn't and wouldn't affect her. She would act like nothing happened. No one or not anything could affect that resolve that she would be in control. It was frightening living with Cammy because I never knew what would set her off. One time we got into a huge fight as sisters, and she demanded that my sister and I leave the premises to get out of the room.
Get out!
And we refused to do that.
No, if you don't like it, why don't you leave?
She went into my parents' bedroom, and she got a rifle, a hunting rifle. She coming through their door, pointing at us and demanding that we get out of the house.
I said get out!
Just calm, cool, and collected. Just y'all get out, or I'm gonna shoot you. Of course we're thinking that she's teasing, but we're not taking any chances, right?
I mean it.
I can remember trying to get Sharon out of the house. Let's go. And she then locks us out. And we stay out until Mom and Dad get home. They didn't know what to do. My mother took Cammie to our pediatrician, and she asked him what she could do to get Cammie help. And he reprimanded her verbally and just said, she's a middle child. She needs extra attention. She needs extra love. Just love her and give her special attention. Absolutely the wrong advice from that pediatrician. I don't think they knew what to do with her when she was little. You could not reason with Cammie. It wasn't that I hated her. You just don't want to have a relationship anymore. And there was times when we were teenagers that were good. Cammie was 21 or 22 when she got married. I was 24 when I got married. We were close then. Well, close enough to the only time that we really saw one another was like Mother's Day, Easter, was just your normal, see you later, hello, how are you, kind of thing. Well, we were on our way to my niece's 3rd birthday, which is Sharon's daughter. And I had Cammie with me and 2 of my sons. And Cammie was saying cruel things about my nephew.
I can't stand him. Cammie, please, not in front of the boys. It's their cousin.
It was aggravating me, and I'd ask her to stop several times.
He's so spoiled. Of course he'd turn out like this.
After she kept on, I said, well, if you don't stop now, I'm pulling off. And you will get out of my vehicle.
Shut up. You don't tell me what to do.
She turned around in the passenger seat and started kicking with every ounce of her strength in her leg.
Stop it! Are you trying to kill us?
She'd kick me in my face, and on my arm, my ribs. I mean, here we are on an interstate. Here we have our children with us. She did not care. Cammie was acting with reckless abandon because the need to control and get revenge was greater than survival at that point in time.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
I pulled off and I made her get out of my car. I felt badly by leaving my sister on the side of the interstate that was overridden by the thought of keeping the occupants of that vehicle safe. I did the right thing. She could have killed us. All right, this is my sister, my dear brother-in-law, Terry, and they are in France, maybe on their honeymoon. After the divorce from her first husband, Cammie met Terry at the Department of Revenue in Raleigh, where she worked as well. Their relationship mostly was volatile, but there were times like this where you could sense some fun loving. It's wonderful to see them like that. She looks genuinely happy. I know how much he loved her. I'm not sure the other way around. When Cammie married Terry, she knew he had a kidney condition. And she commented once that the only reason that she married him was because he had a kidney disorder and that she didn't feel like that he would live that long.
I really like him. Yeah. We'll see how long it lasts.
And that he would have good insurance. I cannot remember exactly my response, but I do know that I would reprimand her.
If I'm lucky, he won't last long.
It's not right. It's insanity. It's evil.
That's a terrible thing to say.
I'm surprised that it slipped out. I don't think that she intended necessarily to reveal that. Maybe she did. Maybe she liked the shock factor. It was a very Cammie-like thing to do. When Cammie and Terry divorced, there was a terrible custody battle for the children. Terry and I started talking about it. Terry thought that Cammie had broken into his apartment because little things would be altered. He noticed that his underclothes drawer had been tampered with, and his medicine cabinet had been tampered with. He needed medication daily. Was she actually trying to kill him then? I don't know. I believe that Cammie was always trying to send messages to everyone in her life. We're seeing a progression of that sinister behavior, that darkness. After Cammie lost custody, her behavior became even more erratic. He'd leave to take the children to school in the morning, and she'd follow him. And she had a wig on. That's when he first realized that she was stalking him. Watching. Always watching. When Cammie lost the children and Terry became their full guardian, she blamed me and said that I had paid off the judges and paid for his lawyers. Of course, that wasn't the truth at all, but that was what she believed. Cammie had a seething rage that was directed toward me because she thought that I was directly responsible for her losing her children. She never openly threatened, but there were several times that Cammie had called me, making reference to things she wouldn't have known about unless she had been stalking me.
You're not scaring me. Stop calling here.
And sometimes at night, I would get this eerie feeling or sensation that someone was watching me. I immediately shut all blinds and locked all doors. It's like that almost panic. Do it now. I felt like she could come into my home and hurt me while I was sleeping, while I was watching TV. I felt like my life was in jeopardy. like court issues and losing her children really put Kimmy over an edge. One day I got a call from the detective in the city that she lived in, stating that a report was filed against me because I was poisoning her food.
Wait, she did it again?
I would get a call once a month at least with them saying that she was reporting a crime, that I had been in her house and had poisoned her food. And the next time it would be the water.
You know this is ridiculous, right?
She really believed that I hated her that much. As a matter of fact, once she called me, she was crying almost uncontrollably. And she said, "What have I ever done to make you hate me like you do?" That was tough. That was so tough to hear. Anyway, she believed it, and still does. I was home with my family one day for my birthday. Cammy comes in my house and brings me a birthday cake. And I said, "What in the world is that?"
Cammy?
And she's got this solemn look on her face, and she said, "It's a birthday cake."
I baked you a cake.
I said, "Do you literally think that I would eat that after all you've accused me of?"
Why not?
I thought that there was a possibility Cammy poisoned the cake that she brought me. I told her to take the cake back.
Don't you think things are going too far?
And I said, "Why can we not be friends? Why does it have to be this way?" And she said, "I did not take your children away from you."
I had nothing to do with it!
At that point in time, I lost all manner of control, and I literally attacked her. I had just had it with her shenanigans toward me for years. I kept shaking her and saying, "You need to take medication." And then my husband, David, came and he said, "Kimmy, you need to leave."
You gotta go. You gotta go now.
She would listen to him more so than she would me, so she left. But I wouldn't have put it past her to come back for revenge. She thought that I was out to destroy her. I have no clue why. Our last Christmas together, she wasn't invited because she had a restraining order. And she wasn't supposed to be near the kids.
Merry Christmas.
And she came.
What are you doing here?
No, you're not supposed to be here.
I was watching her hands in her coat pocket. I was afraid of a gun. I didn't trust her. The children went to the basement with Terry. I took her aside and I told her that she wasn't supposed to be there. And I told her to leave, and she got a little smirky look on her face. I was obsessed with watching her hands in her pockets.
It's Christmas.
I do think that she was deeply, deeply hurt. Having Christmas, which was the grandest of all holidays in my family, and for her not to be able to be invited. I feel like she was deeply wounded and hurt. And I'm sorry. I was starting to be fearful for Terry and myself. His life could be in trouble. One day, I had ice cream with Terry, and I said, "Can I talk to you about something?" And he said, "Sure, sis, what's on your mind?" I'll never forget that.
I feel like she's up to something.
I said, Terry, you know both of us are in danger of being killed. Kimmy could come after us, either one of us. And he said, yes, sis, I know that. I said, well, what are you doing about it? Are you doing anything? He goes, well, I'm working on some things. That conversation was 1 month before it actually happened. On March 24th, 2006, I was at home. And I got a call. Hello? It was the detective. And he said, I need to tell you, your sister has shot your brother-in-law.
She shot him?
I went totally out of kilter with that call and just started screaming.
No!
I just kept saying, oh no, oh no, oh no. I said, can you tell me what happened? Terry and Cammie met in the park that day. She convinced Terry, even though it was disallowed, to meet her for pizza in order to see the children. They met, and she said, can I talk to you for a minute? And he said, yes, and Cammie shot Terry in the stomach.
Were the kids were there?
I am believing he thought she would never do this in front of her children.
Oh, no.
She went back to be with the children, telling them that everything was going to be okay, that Daddy was going to be fine. The children were 8 years old and 6 years old. I felt pity for the children. It's almost like in your own ears you can hear the shot ringing out. I can almost see them as they saw their father fall. I don't think that Cammie meant to kill him. She was planning on scaring him into submission.
No.
This is a picture of my precious, precious brother-in-law and his children. Just a beautiful family, totally destroyed by the decisions of one person. I was much closer to Terry than ever I was to Cammie. When Cammie shot Terry and he died, I was devastated with the news that he was gone. Every time somebody that we really love leaves the earth, a piece of us goes with them. I'm not doing real well. Terry survived the initial shooting. He was the one that called 911, and immediately the police were there, and she was arrested. She was taken immediately to Wade County Jail. And even though I really was still angry with her, I visited her in jail. And I walk in, of course she's behind the glass, and she has the most horrible look on her face. Between anger and devastation. It's almost a spiritual darkness. And I say, Cammie, what in the world is the matter?
Why did you do this?
And once again, I heard the words, I did not have your children taken away from you.
But you helped them take mine.
So at that point, I told her that the next time that I saw her, hopefully would be in the next life. And she immediately laughed and said, if you're talking about heaven, you're not going to be there.
I can't do this anymore.
I told her that I would not be visiting her again ever, as long as I lived. I hung up the phone and I just walked out. That was in 2008. I never went back to see her. Cammie was charged with second-degree murder. I can remember one attorney that met with my family, and he said, she will be doing very well if she escapes the electric chair. I didn't feel like that was enough. I mean, we're talking about murder here. I was hoping for life. I think that it would have been a blessing if it had been the death penalty. And I say that with full love in my heart for her best interest. Because I'm not sure what kind of life that she has ahead of her. She'll serve her sentence and get free and be walking the streets of society. And shortly. I feel like that there is potential for Cammie coming after me. But I'm not scared for Cammie to be released from prison because I'm prepared. As soon as she's released, I will get a restraining order. But I also got concealed carry, and I will carry if that day happens, all the time. I think this is when she was in jail. She just looks so sad. I'm sorry for the pain that she's brought to people's lives. But this picture makes me want to hold her. I wish I could make things okay for her. I wish I could make her mind well and reverse people's hurts. For her children, for Terry. It's pretty devastating. I wish I had the ability to reconstruct her life and make different decisions for her that would turn out to be happy. I want her to be happy. Yes, I do love her very much. Even with all the pain that she's brought myself and other people, I still love her very, very much. It's an unconditional love. I wish you could have believed I never meant any harm for you. Someday you'll know truth. Someday you'll know truth.